Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Route to Freedom podcast. I'm Bill Birch. This is my wife, Sharon.
Happy to be here again.
And we have Ed Shabazian with us today from the Pool Route Marketplace and the Pool Profits podcast, amongst other things, entrepreneur that he is. Ed, great to have you here today. I've been really looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, I'm glad we're all together. And Ed, to get going, if you don't mind, tell us just a little bit about how you got into the pool business. What was your path into this industry?
Absolutely. So I think I had a similar path to a lot of people. I grew up in the corporate world after college and just sitting behind a desk, business and marketing and things like that. And, after years of doing that, I discovered that I really wanted to control my own destiny a little bit more and be in charge of kind of, my options and my future, and build something rather than just kind of, sit at a desk all day. And when I thought about that, it drove me to kind of look at different industries and understand, what am I good at? What can I get into? I kind of narrowed things down to the home service industry. And as I was looking at the various fields, what I realized quickly was I was a little bit too out of shape to do AC work and things like that. And the pool industry seemed very approachable. And when I discovered that it was like recurring revenue, it was service, it was maintenance, it was repairs, parts, things like that, I was like, you know what? This could be a good starting point for me. So I researched it a bit more and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. It's a wonderful industry. It's scalable. It's year round. And so I was like, perfect. So we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm based out of now. And I started my pool route then at that point. And that eventually led to Pool Profits and Pool Route Marketplace and all these things. And we can get into that in a second here. But that was kind of the origin story. It was me just looking for a better path.
I'm thinking about the commitment to go, all right, we're going to move to Arizona. That's quite a commitment to, we're going to do this. This is how it's going to work. That's awesome. How did you shift from your own pool company into those? What made that transition happen?
So it was really interesting. So when I first started the pool company, I was essentially just like everyone else. I was wearing all the hats. I was doing marketing and accounting and running the route and doing the work. And what I quickly discovered was the marketing side, getting the actual leads was very difficult. And so I tried building a website, I tried running ads, I tried doing all these things by myself with mixed results. And so some things hit, some things didn't. But when you're wearing all the hats and you're doing all the work, as a lot of our guys listening to this will probably know, it becomes difficult to manage everything by yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of discovered a couple of different marketing agencies. And I myself tried using a few different ones and mixed results, not great, and one of the things you'll probably discover is that in this industry, for every one good marketing company, there's 2 or 3 bad ones. It's kind of a cliche, but it's very true. And so I actually came across my business partner's company, and he's now my business partner, but back then he was my marketing guy and they were my marketing company, and they kind of had the manpower to scale this thing up. And his systems worked so well with my pool knowledge, the strategies and the content and everything we do, and that I was able to basically double, triple the size of the company inside of a year. And when that happened, I was like, and his name's Jonathan. And I was like, Jonathan, this is a little crazy. We need to do this at scale for other companies. And thus Pool Profits was born. I ended up selling the pool route because I couldn't do both. And so for me, having the marketing company in the industry that I loved was a perfect blend for me, because I love talking to people and I love the industry. So it was like, you know what, I can help other companies do what I did. And he's already built over 13, 14 years. His team and such have built so many amazing tools that my knowledge, my expertise in the industry, their tools, and also the tools that I kind of developed doing everything myself as well, because I do have a marketing background as well, but more from the strategy side, and his was more from the technical side. And so the marriage of all of these elements worked so well, and they work now well for all of these companies. So that's how kind of Pool Profits was born. And essentially from there, we took those tools and strategies and we've been using for companies across the country. Yeah, it's
cool. And I happen to know Jonathan as well. And I think something that's really critical here, and I find that that's what's in my business, Bill's business and Blue Water Brokerage, and mine in pool service, QuickBooks and systems and such, the secret sauce that is often missing, or maybe there's no other way to say that, is Jonathan also had some pool service knowledge. That wasn't his whole gig, but knowing the business and understanding that business, at least being in it and operating it, is a game changer when you're trying to provide a service to support that business. And that's really why that's what brought the three of us here on this podcast. Is we owned a pool service business. We figured out how to operate it well. We figured out how to scale it. And now we want to help others do the same. And that's kind of our next piece. But it's so important that you just don't hire a marketing company if they don't have a clue about your business. It's really hard to market something you don't understand. So I think that's a really special, important piece that gets overlooked.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to that, actually. You're making a really great point, because a lot of when I first started with the pool company, I looked for help. I had companies that weren't pool related, and they just missed the mark on so many things. I can just name, like, the watchers will be like, give me an example. Okay, here are a few examples. So keywords, if you're doing Google ads, the keywords. So it's not just the keywords you do want to promote, it's the keywords you want to avoid wasting money on. There are tons of wasted keywords that are being advertised accidentally by these companies that are costing you, the pool business owner, money. When we implement a Google AdWords campaign for you, we have something like 800 or 900 negative keywords, things I don't want you to show up for, because those are usually end up being a waste of money. So something like pool store, pool toy, random things like that people are looking, their intent is not to hire someone. Their intent is to buy a product, look for someone else's company, do something, there's a million different things. Public pools, right? YMCA, whatever the case may be. And if you don't exclude these things, a lot of times with broad search and Performance Max and all these various campaign types, it's just going to lump a whole bunch of stuff in that's related. And you have to really train it. And if you don't understand what the negative associations are and wasted money, there's going to be so much wasted money in that one small thing. And so just like one simple example there. Other examples, like when we build a website, we make sure that all of the different services you provide are accounted for, and each one has its own page. So we know what a sand change is. We know what a salt cell is, and we make pages for every single one of those in every single place that you want to be in. And these other agencies really don't. They're just going to basically kind of do a Google search or an AI search and try to kind of put it together. So there's going to be this like learning curve for them that we don't have. We already know everything in that sense. Not to say we know everything, but like we've been through a lot of this, process, both of us owning pool companies to having pool companies across the country. And so that was a natural progression for us. And that's some examples of where that actually makes an impact.
Yeah. And it's, go, Bill. Sorry, I'm not letting you talk.
Well, I had a quick question about so I'm a pool service owner, and I'm thinking about doing my Google ads, or everybody and their mother is calling me about helping promote my business.
Yes.
And they do that. And when you say that costs money, and I don't understand this really well, so I'm hoping you can clarify it. You put in keywords that don't really relate to your business well. But when somebody clicks on a link that's associated to that keyword that doesn't relate to you well, you pay for that click, even though it's not really helping your business. Is that what you're talking about? Or how does that work? How do all the extra not really well done words spend my money?
That's actually a great point to kind of make it a little bit more clear. So I apologize on the screen if I'm freezing here and there. But so on the negative keywords, what you want to do is you want to not show up for those specific keywords. You don't want to be listed in that search. And so, for example, if someone's Googling public swimming pool, if I don't exclude that term because it has the word pool in it, Google Ads will show my company name in that spot when
and charge you for
that, and charge you for it if someone clicks your name or calls you. They don't care. They're going to charge you. And so I want to avoid being in that advertising spot when that person is looking for that, because they will charge you regardless. Google does not know the intent behind what you're putting together in your ad campaign. So they will charge you for it. So we have to make sure you're not showing up there to avoid wasting that click, because that person is absolutely not looking for swimming pool service. That's quite the opposite. They're looking for a public pool to go to, right? So they don't even own a pool, and you don't want to show up in those searches. So those searches can waste so much money.
So those wayward keywords or whatever they are like little leaks in your pool of money, and they're just wisping out around your little inlet and draining your pool. So gotcha.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. Just one simple example of how, and that could be a lot of money. If you're spending $3,000 to $5,000 a month on ads alone, and 30% of it or 40% of it is just going to wasted keywords, that's a lot of money. So, and not everyone's spending that much, but even if you are, everybody spends in relationship to their budget. right?
Right.
If your
Yep.
budget's $1,000 and $300 is just going to simple waste,
The percentage is going
that's
to
a
be
big impact.
the loss percentage is going to be the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something just kind of in passing, but I think it's worth pointing out at least briefly, is traditionally, and it took a while for the world to catch up and go, what is SEO? All right. So we've kind of got that. Most people know that's search engine optimization, so that when people type in things, then it searches for a Google search. And that's what you were just talking about, SEO. But now with people skipping that and going right to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever their preferred Gemini to, hey, what's the best pool service provider? I'm looking for this. And instead of asking Google, they're doing it in a chat with AI. That is also important in how you're building those websites and creating a page for each thing so that it becomes part of the conversation. The research that chat is going out and grabbing and getting you as part of that. Correct? Do I have that right? I think it's called GEO.
Yes, like generative engine optimization. And so basically what's happening now is AI is thinking for us on these searches, right? Whereas traditionally out Google or Apple or Bing or Microsoft, whoever, wherever platform you're using would just find you a list of related or highly related websites and map listings. Now AI is actually thinking for you and finding you the best ones it thinks based on all the available information that those companies are putting out. And so it's basically acting like your administrative assistant, as your office manager, as your, whatever you want to call it, but it's doing the thinking for you. And so what ends up happening a lot of times, and this is very interesting, is that the Google, let's say, top 3 results and the AI, let's say ChatGPT top 3 results will be completely different. Where we've kind of broken through is that a lot of our clients will show up on both searches.
That's awesome.
And that's really important. And again, it just circles back to not just having marketing people who do marketing for anything, but truly understand, okay, what would people be searching for? So we need to make sure we have that type of content out there. So that's just, again, underscores how important that is to actually understand the business and desire the best for your clients.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We got to keep moving. Time.
Yeah, sorry.
Time is
I
of the
think I'm
essence.
guilty.
Hey, I'm really interested in Pool Route Marketplace. That's kind of a, from what I understand about it, that's a pretty cool deal. Do you mind sharing a little more about that?
Absolutely. So Pool Route Marketplace is a fantastic platform where people can research the buying and selling of pool routes. And so what that means, what is a pool route? So let's just start there. A pool route is the series of accounts that a company has, and essentially the combination of that account series is their route, right? So that's the total of their client list, essentially. Now in the pool business, you can sell that route, and you could buy one of those routes. And it's definitely a way to exit the industry as a traditional business sale, or grow your business by buying a one lump sum of routes. And Pool Route Marketplace is an AI powered platform that helps make that search easier with AI tools and an education center. And again, I see the video might be a little choppy, so please excuse me, but it's hopefully my audio is great.
Yeah, your audio is strong.
Audio is great.
Okay. So yeah, so the marketing side is one thing, and then the pool route buying side is another. And so with the pool route buying side, it comes down to is filling those gaps.
Gotcha. I don't know if you've got a finger on this or not. Can you get a feel for who's showing up to buy right now? Are they first timers, operators that are expanding, investors?
We have a pretty good mix of everybody on the buying side. So I'll give you some examples of what I've encountered, and I've bought pools myself when I had my route too. So I'm a perfect example of this. And so I'll give you an example. So let's say you're like I was looking to get into the industry, and I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any accounts, and I wanted to literally dive in, pun intended, right? So we needed to figure out a way to make this possible and make it easy. I discovered there are various pool route buying websites. And for me, it made sense because if you want to if you want to ease into it, and you want to buy, let's say, 1 or 2 days worth of routes. So let's say in Phoenix, you can do easily 15 pools per day. Some guys are doing 20 pools per day. And let's say I bought 30 pools to give myself a 2-day route to start off. A lot of times the sellers will give you 2 weeks worth of in-field training and 2 weeks worth of phone support. So you're getting a month of support within the purchase. That's great for me. I get to get in, make enough money where I can start, learn the industry, and move forward from there. So for beginners, it's a great way to do it. Now, there's another scenario that makes sense. Let's say I had 150 pools or 175 pools, and my guys can do, 140, 50 by the two of them. Let's say I wanted to get a third guy. Well, it wouldn't, at that point, I have like 30, 40 extra pools. It's not really enough to hire a third full-time person, right? And then getting part-time work is difficult. So if I have those extra 20, 30 pools that I'm doing as over to fill in the gap, I can buy, let's say, 30 pools that are in the same area. Sometimes it's hard to find, but you look and you wait. And if you find that grouping, now I add those 30 to my 30 and I have a full route for somebody and I can hire that person. So all of a sudden you're strategically filling the route. So so we look at like a beginner, we look at someone who's already got a business. And then the third kind of wave that's newer are the private equity companies that are coming in and just buying larger account sets, right? And they're buying 100 pool route accounts and up. And so, there's a lot of them out there, but they are basically, it's called like a business roll up, right? And they're kind of just like, they keep kind of adding them onto their main system. And so those are the three main types that we're seeing on the buyer side. On the selling side, it varies, but for the most part, we get a lot of people retiring and they've had the companies for a long time. That's a big chunk of them nowadays. I think a lot of, just like in any of the trades, people are aging, they're wanting to retire, they're wanting to spend more time with the family, they've made enough money. That's a big chunk of it. I think part of it is just people who just are too busy, companies who have just gotten too busy. They have a really good Rolodex and they get a lot of leads organically. And they're just like, hey, you know what? I don't need these 50 anymore. So let me just give myself a Christmas bonus and sell off 50 and keep the rest of my route.
It's part of their strategy to maybe even keep their route map tight.
Absolutely. Yeah. They can sell out the outskirts or something along those lines, or break them off into two separate sales and keep the route tight and keep adding to that tighter situation. So that actually is definitely a strategy. So we see a lot of retire, we see a lot of this. And then, some people just change their minds. They build a good business. They're like, I want to try something else. And so you get a variety of reasons, divorce, a million things, anything can happen, right?
Some reasons are better than others, but they're all reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So from the various sides, we kind of see those as the main two or three from each side.
It feels like, as listening to you talk, along with it seems to almost fill a gap because there is naturally a sweet spot. And you mentioned that you're talking about the sweet spot of you have X amount of pool techs and that there's a sweet spot of how many pools do I need so that it maximizes that. But then when you go over it a little bit, then it's like, it's not quite enough to, hire another person. And so that gap is, I'm not really trying to purchase an entire business or sell an entire business, but I can see the pool route marketplace as being a place that, hey, I just need a few more pools, or I'd like to offload a few more pools, and make it an easy way to search it and find the right fit people pretty transparently and kind of peer-to-peer to create a win-win situation. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And brokers are welcome as well. You can, as a broker, you can list your listing there as well. It's the most important thing about the platform is that it's easy to use, it's transparent, and the third and probably the biggest thing is that it gives a lot of information. There's like a learning center where you can kind of understand what you're buying, what to look for, what are the green flags, what are the red flags, and having that gamified kind of easy to use learning center and tools such as route price calculator and pool facts, where you can kind of use it to vet the routes a little bit as tools, additional tools. Because being in the industry this long now, again, I've been in it for 20 years, but like I've been in so many parts of the industry and talked to so many people in the industry. It's like I've heard so many great stories, but also some really horror stories about pool route purchases. If you don't mind, I could tell you a couple. And it's just like, and this is also where it's great to have either someone like the knowledge, the tools on the platform vetting the stuff for you, or someone like Bill, who can then like help you walk through the process and to make sure that you know what you're getting and what you're buying, and not to, step on a landmine, so to speak. And it happens. I had one scenario with someone and this person had bought like 100 pools, something along those lines. And a huge chunk of them, about, I would say 75 or 80 of them, a very large, more than 2/3 of them were managed by like 2 property managers or something like that. And so they were mostly Airbnbs or vacation rentals, things like that. It was a very touristy place. And so, a lot of these pool route transactions will give you what's called like a clawback period, like a 60 or 90 days. you guys know this well, it's like 60 to 90 days where if you lose an account and it's not your fault, essentially, the person just didn't like you or for whatever reason, it was just non-related to service, it was just a personal decision, you can get credited back for that purchase for that unit, right? At the end of escrow, they do the math, like, okay, yeah, you bought 100, 95 worked out, these 5 dropped off, they're not your fault, here's your, $1,000 back per whatever it was. Well, this person lost 70, 80 accounts within that period, not to his fault, but the seller said, I already spent the money. I can't give you 2/3 back.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, he's in the right, but he has no recourse now. He has to go file a lawsuit, even though the contract was correct. He was within his parameters, and but he ended up still having to fight this. I don't know what happened, and I don't know the specifics, but just in general, we want to be really careful with things like this. So now it's up to the courts in that scenario. But what is the red flag there? The red flag was more than 2/3 of the route was determined by 2 people or 2 companies or whatever the case is. These are things you want to be a little bit weary of, right? And so you don't want any one person to have that much control over the routes that you're buying because of a scenario like that. So you can maybe avoid things like that. Now that's an extreme case. It's probably very uncommon. But these are some of the things that you guys can help with, and some of the stories we hear about, like, this is like what.
And every deal has its potential pitfalls. Yeah. So hopefully, I think single routes, single pole purchases are a little bit easier to get your head around. You've been to them all. If you got, like you were saying, 2 weeks, side by side, and another 2 weeks on the phone. You get into a bigger business though, and you start running into some stuff like that you may not see and nobody knows. So I bet you probably cover some of this. Tell us about your podcast, because I have a feeling that some of the things we're talking about are things that you talk about in the Pool Profits podcast.
Absolutely. So we do videos for both the Pool Route Marketplace and Pool Profits. And so they kind of work hand in hand. So on the Pool Profit side, we're talking more about the marketing, sales aspect, the operations, trying to help people get knowledge and information about how to kind of grow the business from the marketing and like one-by-one side, right? Organically or through ads, but like those elements. On the Pool Route Marketplace side, we want to kind of discuss some of those elements, but more about transactions, business strategy, what to avoid, what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, and just kind of understand the world, each little individual world, because they do live side by side and they do both have their pros and cons, and they actually do fit well with each other. Like I said, I grew my route organically through ads and through purchases. And I think that's usually the case for a lot of companies. In some places, it's very costly to do marketing, and maybe you just find a really great deal on a route. And it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I've had vice versa happen too. So I've had scenarios where I've had people have on Google Ads campaigns in, let's say, Southern California in normal neighborhood, nothing too crazy or busy, but like I've seen $3 per click, $2-3 cost per click average. And then in some like very high end, let's say Florida neighborhoods, I've had $40 cost per click. And 3 to a 40 is such a dramatically different acquisition scale and budget needed to break into. If you're paying $40 per click, it's like 2 clicks, you're at $100 a day. It's like $3,000 a month. You're getting 2 attempts, and one of them might be spam and one of them might be a salesman. Every click is not an actual person, so you have to filter that out as much as possible. But sometimes it does make sense to just, if you do come across a great deal, buy the route. Sometimes it makes sense if you have a great marketing system, work the marketing system. So I think each thing has its pros and cons, especially when you get great people like our team doing the ads, or like Bill helping you find stuff and good deals and so on and so forth. So like, or Sharon helping you manage it. And so I think everything has its pros and cons and its spots to use strategically.
So in your opinion, for someone that's buying their route, their first route or their first business, what do you think they should look for? What scares you about most of the first timers that you work with?
So being one of them at some point, right? I was in those exact shoes. And for me, I think the way I approached it, some people might like. So I bought a partial route when I first started as well. So I did the marketing as well. I hired those companies as well, but I also did buy a partial route. And for me, doing the partial route was a safe way to get in, because you're not, again, it's a lot of money. You may spend $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 on a partial route, but it's not as as committed as opening a store or a business, right? Where you're signing a lease and you're buying massive amounts of equipment and so on and so forth. So for me, buying a route is actually it can be a very easy way to kind of ease into the business. So, you're still spending a lot, but you can at least dip your feet in and see if you really like this and if it's something that you can feel yourself growing. Now, if you don't like it, it's pretty easy to then turn around and sell those accounts as well. If you want to exit the other way around, you don't have a lease, you don't have a massive set of equipment you financed, right? Maybe you're just using your pickup truck that you already had, or a van that you had, or whatever the case may be. You didn't buy like some Caterpillar dump truck now that you're stuck with this like $200,000 vehicle, right? And so those are the elements that I like, is that you can easily get into it, you can easily exit, you can feel it out. And by the way, the opposite is true too. If you get into it and you do like it and a great deal comes across to scale up very quickly, if you're ready and you have the funds ready, all of a sudden you can go from 20 pools to 200 with one transaction. Now you're a major player in your area. And so I think from that perspective, that's what I look for. That's what I think works well. And some people, by the way, are just ready right away. Some people are very knowledgeable business operators and they look for a route that already has a team in place. And so if you're buying a route that's got 300 pools, 5 technicians, a manager, and an office person, all you have to do is kind of be absentee and just run the day-to-day. Like, let them run the day-to-day and you're just making the decisions and signing the checks. So there's different opportunities with that, which are really interesting.
And that's going to make your business worth a lot more. If you can, Sharon and I have purchased, operated, and sold a number of different businesses in different industries. And the best deal that we had, the seller or the buyer, I was taking them on a tour of the businesses that we had, and they asked, how many hours a week do you spend in this business? The larger one. I was like, I don't know, probably 3-4 hours a week, something like that. And within minutes, he reached over and said, deal, full price offer, no negotiation. But it was all based on the fact that we had automated the process, and it did not take a lot of my time. So, and that was a high 7-figure deal. So
amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
but that's where you can get
where the value is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you buy those, and there's that multiple increases, on the sell side, which we're going to talk about. So I don't want to talk too much. So when you're planning on selling, what do you think these sellers need to be doing as they plan to sell?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or prevent the negotiation and discounting on the back end. The more value you've got there, the more they risk upsetting you as the seller. If you've got your ducks in a row, you don't have a lot of reason to have to negotiate very far if you've priced it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, if you guys don't mind, I want to kind of do a little round table and ask each of you a question, and then I'll follow up with a question for myself to answer. Ed, a live deal or market shift that you're seeing in business right now? What comes to mind when you think about that? A live deal or something that's shifting in the market right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And private equity cannot compete with that owner operator that's doing the same thing. They've got too much overhead to pull it off if an owner operator can do that. And the customer can't tell the difference between private equity owned pool service company and your pool service company. You get to charge closer to what they're charging and take the cash and ride on their shirt tails like shake and bake, let them break the wind and you draft in behind them. So that's excellent. So Sharon, you come from a whole different perspective because you're working with, you've got a lot of those operating companies and they're trying to swim through the tech side and how to get their books done. What are you seeing in your world?
Well, something similar to what Ed was talking about. And again, I think we have a bit of an advantage per se in talking with clients all the time or potential clients. You really learn, what's working for people and what's not, and the different things. And so Ed is spot on, is that the more organized they are, the more that they're actually watching their numbers. That's the difference I see is a lot of pool service business owners will come to me and they were so busy in the startup phase and then quickly started to grow, but all they were watching was their bank account and their credit card account to see how they're doing. And then they kind of hit this ceiling where that's not working for me anymore. I actually need to understand my financials more. And I didn't take the time to set up my QuickBooks correctly or my bookkeeping correctly. So I'm like at a loss. When I look at these numbers, I have no idea how I'm truly doing. So I kind of meet these people who typically, I meet all kinds, but I will have the new person who wants to set it up right from the beginning because they came from a corporate world and they understand already how important that is. So they'll hire me to do that at the very beginning. They're going to be set. That's awesome. And then a lot of them, not a lot of them, there's another percentage that is what I was sharing before. And now they recognize the value of, oh man, this is, I've been moving along for a few years now and I have no idea where I'm at. I don't know if I can afford a truck. I don't know if I can afford a new tech. And if I want to exit this, I don't have the numbers in place to even know. So we're going back and having to do they're hiring us to do the cleanup work so that they have at least 3 to 5 years of true data, because that you have to have that lined up for a potential seller to even be interested in you. They're going to ask for it. Yep. And you will present better and you'll get a better price if you have clean, accurate financials. So we're going to do that from the beginning. So that's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
So for me, I'm going to spin off of Ed's a little bit. One thing that I see happening a lot is you do have private equity coming in, but there's also this kind of YouTube generated concept of being an acquisition entrepreneur. I, by myself, having this corporate background, knowing what I know and having some cash in my pocket, I should be able to go buy XYZ company and really manage it and own it from a distance and do that. And I'm as a broker, I'm dealing with a lot of buyers that are like that are, hey, I've got my SBA 7A. They tell me that I can have $3 million or $5 million, and I want this thing and I want that thing. And I was talking to a guy the other day, and I'm like, how long have you been working at this? And he's, about a year. Made any offers? Yeah, I've been into 3 deals. Haven't gotten any of them yet. Okay. And I think that there are some YouTubers out there that are pitching the click with this get rich, easy, quick scheme. I don't know if I'd call it a scheme. You can do it, but you're going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have more cash than you think you're going to have. Because when you mention SBA, the seller and the seller's broker are going to go, ooh, so many things can go wrong here. Maybe we should hang on for somebody who's got some cash, like the real private equity company that's just coming in and going to write a check. Not that they're not going to drag you through some thistles, but that's going to happen. But yeah, I think that's what I'm seeing is that there's kind of a surge right now of individuals and many of them never cleaned a pool, no idea. Just it's like the new best thing in the service industry to grab a hold of. Following the plumbing companies, electrical companies, cleaning companies, that stuff that's been franchised. So I'm seeing that, and it's a little heartbreaking to see how they're betting on that. And I think there's a confirmation bias that maybe we all get into, especially with the online food we can consume, because we want to see more of what we think of. So if I fancy myself a acquisition entrepreneur, I go watch more videos all the time. I'm like, yeah. And then I watch a few more and I'm more, yeah. And then, but in the end, the days are clicking and the months, and you get in a year or 2 years and you don't have a deal yet. When just taking a common approach, picking up a route like you did, I'm going to get a route. Got it under my belt. Been 3-4 months. I think, hey, this guy that I met at the pool supply company says he wants to sell his route. I think I'm going to buy that, and next thing you know, you got another one. Then you're like, oh no, okay, I get this. This is scalable, but just take the guerrilla approach to it, not the textbook approach. Just get in there, get your hands dirty. So anyway, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of these, a lot of guys that are looking, and I think I may be squeezing more of that out. They're leaving those tech jobs or those higher paying jobs because they see the downsides coming, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. They want to be like the private equity guys, but that's tough. That's a tough thing to compete with.
You need to know what you're talking about and garner the respect of the people on your team too. So doing that to some degree. And it made me think about Ed and I actually met through a connection with a franchise, the Pool Duck franchise. And I bring that up because it ties into what we're talking about when you talked about you need systems. Yes, you can get in a truck and do it all by yourself, but then you're going to be kind of stuck. You'll be kind of limited to just that. And so an advantage, and I can't vouch for this for all franchises, but in Pool Duck, I know for sure, is that all of the systems, all the admin, all the support you need, it's like a jumpstart kit. And so being part of that, where you don't have to figure it out and go through hard knocks, try stuff that didn't work, that did work. that can also be another avenue in that makes a lot of sense, because it's going to give you that advantage that puts you up there with the equity folks who already understand organizational things. And so they start from day one that way. And so doing something with, again, like Pool Duck franchise, I know does this, but I can't vouch for that for other franchises. I have no idea. That is a big advantage to getting a really solid start in a pool business. That is another, if you have the funds to do it that way, I think it puts you ahead of the game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that I'll wrap up here in a second. If you come from a corporate environment, you get the concept of how that works. So rather than having to do everything from scratch, trying to create it on your own, you saw it. I'm going to talk about a franchise unrelated to the pool service business, but McDonald's. A lot of McDonald's franchises aren't owned by an occupant owner anymore. They got in, they bought the first one, they had to work in the first one, they grew it. But then since they were successful, they could buy another one, not have to work in that one and put a manager in it. Then they could buy another one. And so you have these McDonald's franchisees that own hundreds of McDonald's, and their wealth is in the hundreds of millions because they didn't waste any time on recreating the wheel. They're like, no, I'm running with this. Where's my next territory? Oh, here's a territory for sale where there was one. That guy's old and hasn't been taken care of, and I'm going to take that one. And they just keep acquiring. And they have a home office and life is good for them. That's right. And I'll put those websites in the description below so that everybody can see it if they want to see that. So Ed, great having you today. Sharon, of course. I think great podcast. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here. And for all of you out in the audience, if you liked what you saw, give us a click, subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, stuff we can cover, we'd love to see those. So you can message us or put those in the comments too. So with that, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, everybody. Cool.